Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going to dig into some really unconventional, sometimes, frankly, kind of weird advice from Elon Musk.
Yeah, he's definitely got a unique way of looking at things. An innovator, for sure.
Absolutely. And our mission here isn't just to list his, eccentric ideas. We really want to unpack why they might actually work.
Right, looking at the psychology behind it, the core principles, maybe even some science.
Exactly. So the goal for this deep dive is hopefully to give you a shortcut, really, to understanding some powerful mental models, stuff that could genuinely reshape how you tackle problems, how you learn things.
These aren't just quirks, they're potentially tools.
Totally. And we're going to start with maybe the most counterintuitive one. He says, assume you're wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong over time.
Which sounds odd, right?
Yeah. I mean, think about it. This is the guy who built Tesla when everyone doubted electric cars, launched SpaceX, totally shook up Twitter, now X. He seems pretty sure of himself.
He definitely projects confidence.
So why tell us to assume we're wrong? It just sounds so pessimistic, doesn't it?
It does on the surface, but there's actually a profound strength in that idea. It's not pessimism, it's something else.
Okay. So what is it then? What makes assuming you're wrong so potent?
Well, fundamentally, it plugs directly into first principles thinking. I know a lot of listeners will be familiar with this.
Right. Breaking things down to basics.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Not just copying what others do, but really
Yeah.
stripping a problem down to its most fundamental, undeniable truths. You question every single assumption, every single one.
Okay.
And then you build your solution up from that foundation. So if you start off assuming you're right, well, you basically just slam the door on learning anything new.
You're just defending your initial idea.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But if you start by assuming, hey, maybe I'm wrong here, your mind stays open, you're receptive.
Oh, okay. That makes sense.
And this less wrong mindset, it has like three really powerful effects. First, it just kills the ego, or at least dials it way down.
How so?
Well, psychologically, our ego's job is kind of to protect our current identity, our beliefs, right? So it resists change. It looks for confirmation bias.
Right. We look for stuff that proves us right.
Exactly. But if you consciously say, okay, what if I'm wrong? You're basically telling your ego to stand down for a second. Let some actual truth, maybe some uncomfortable truth come in.
Okay. So it quiets the ego. What's number two?
It massively boosts your learning speed. There's neuroscience on this, people with a growth mindset who see errors as like data points, not failures.
They learn faster.
They learn way faster. Their brains literally respond differently to mistakes when they're open to correction, not defensive.
Interesting. And the third one?
It just makes you a better problem solver, period.
Mm-hmm.
When you drop your assumptions, you're forced to ask better questions, more fundamental questions.
Which leads to better answers.
Breakthrough answers, often. I mean, this is exactly how Musk rethought car batteries, rocket fuel, tunneling, even AI training. He didn't just accept how things were done, he asked why. Relentlessly.
That explanation really clicks. Makes you think, how many things do we just accept as impossible because we aren't questioning the basics?
Probably quite a few.
Okay, let's make this really concrete. You mentioned SpaceX earlier. That seems like a prime example.
Oh, absolutely. Perfect case study.
So set the scene. It's what, 2002? Musk has this pretty wild idea. Send a rocket to Mars.
Audacious is the word, yeah. He goes to NASA first, right? Looking for help.
Gets nothing. Then he looks into buying rockets, checks with Russian engineers.
And the prices are just astronomical, prohibitive.
So the normal reaction there is, okay, guess it can't be done. Rockets are just too expensive. End of story.
Right. That's the conventional wisdom assumption.
But Musk, using this assume you're wrong thing, or maybe assume the industry is wrong, he doesn't accept the cost. His question isn't, how can I afford this? It's
the first principles question. Why are rockets so expensive? What is a rocket actually made of?
okay, so he breaks it down, literally.
Yeah. What are the raw materials? You know, aluminum alloys, titanium, carbon fiber, copper, stuff like that. Then he asks, okay, what if I just bought the raw materials myself and the tools and built it?
And the answer was?
Astonishing, really. The cost of the raw materials was something like 2%, just 2% of the price tag for a finished rocket from the existing players.
Wow, that's insane.
It really is. So what does he do? He says, okay, I'll build my own rockets, found SpaceX.
And now SpaceX launches stuff for way, way less than NASA used to pay.
A fraction of the cost.
Yeah.
All because he fundamentally assumed the existing industry's assumptions about costs were just wrong, deeply wrong.
That example really hits home. questioning the fundamentals can literally change the game.
Completely rewrite the rules. And, his unconventional thinking doesn't stop at products. He applies it to how we should work, learn, grow.
Right. Let's get into some of those other maybe weird pieces of advice.
Okay, so first up, the really infamous one. Work 100 hours a week.
Yes. The quote is something like, if someone else works 40 hours and you work 100, you'll get done in 4 months, what takes them a year.
That's the one. And look, it sounds extreme. Immediately makes people think of burnout, right?
Yeah, unsustainable.
And maybe it is long term. But the core principle isn't necessarily about a permanent 100-hour grind. It's more about recognizing that massive action often leads to massive results, especially in critical phases.
So like intense sprints.
Exactly. Periods of intense, almost obsessive focus. You see this with lots of successful people, right? Think of Kobe Bryant's training regimen or Steve Jobs pushing for a product launch.
Right. Those seasons of crazy intensity.
Yeah, it's about leveraging that compounding effort when it really counts. Not necessarily forever, but when you need that breakthrough momentum.
Okay, that framing helps. It's about intensity, maybe not just sheer hours logged in indefinitely. What about his take on college? That's another controversial one. You don't need college.
The quote is, I think college is for fun and proving you can do your chores, but it's not for learning.
Ouch. Sounds pretty anti-education.
Well, I don't think it's anti-education. It seems more anti-passive learning or maybe anti-credentialism.
Maybe.
Meaning he values deep, self-directed learning, the ability to actually solve hard problems.
Yeah.
Real-world application. That matters more to him than a diploma.
So, skills over degrees.
Pretty much. He's looking for talent, passion, the ability to do things, and he's hired people at SpaceX, brilliant people. Without traditional degrees, he focused on what they could demonstrate, their curiosity.
So learn what you need, however you can, to solve real problems. Is that the gist?
I think that captures it well. Learn to solve problems.
Okay, that ties back to the first principles thing too, questioning assumptions about how we learn. So the last piece of advice you mentioned, this might be the hardest for most of us. I always seek negative feedback.
Yeah, this one's tough. Most people run from criticism. He apparently hunts it down.
Why on earth? What's the logic?
Well, it circles right back to the start, doesn't it? Assume you're wrong. Your goal is to be less wrong.
Ah, right. If you assume you're wrong, you'd want people to point out where.
Exactly. It's about actively fighting that natural human urge for comfort and validation. He deliberately surrounds himself with smart, critical people who aren't afraid to tell him his idea is bad.
That takes some confidence, ironically.
It does, but he has that quote, a well-thought-out critique is as valuable as gold. He genuinely seems to believe that.
Why? What's the payoff?
It helps you find your blind spots super fast. You correct course much quicker. It builds resilience, forces clarity. Basically, it short-circuits learning the hard way, after you've already failed. It's about rapid iteration.
Okay, so we've got assume you're wrong, first principles, massive action bursts, skills over credentials, and actively seek critique. These are pretty radical.
They definitely challenge conventional thinking.
So the big question for everyone listening, how can you or I actually use this stuff? Without needing billions of dollars or planning Mars missions.
Right. And the good news is these models are surprisingly scalable. You can distill them down for everyday life.
Okay, give us some actionable steps.
All right. First, maybe just try starting every new idea or plan or even a belief you hold strongly with that internal question. Okay, what if I'm actually wrong about this?
Not to create doubt, but just to open the door.
Exactly. To open the door to other possibilities. Maybe do a little research on counter-arguments. Challenge your own thinking instead of just defending it.
Okay, step 1. What if I'm wrong? What's next?
Second, practice first principles thinking, even on small stuff. Faced with a problem or a decision, ask, what am I assuming here? Like, really list out your assumptions. Then, what are the absolute rock-bottom truths? And finally, could I rebuild this idea from just those truths, ignoring how it's normally done?
So deconstruct and reconstruct.
Basically, yeah, even for small daily problems. Third, and this takes guts, intentionally seek criticism.
Oof. Okay.
Find people you trust who are generally honest, maybe even a bit critical, friends, mentors, colleagues, and don't just ask, what do you think? Ask specifically, what's the biggest flaw here, or what am I missing?
Frame it to get the critique.
Right. Make it clear you want the hard feedback to get better, not just to feel good.
Okay. And the last one. The 100-hour week thing.
Yeah, reframe that one. Don't aim for 100 hours unless that makes sense for you in a specific burst, but maybe aim for, say, 10% more focused effort than yesterday on something
It's
important.
just a small increment.
Yeah, even one extra truly focused hour a day adds up. That's 365 extra hours a year. That's significant. It's about consistent push, building momentum.
So it seems like the reason this advice sounds strange is precisely because it pushes against normal thinking.
And normal thinking usually leads to, well, normal results, not exceptional ones.
Right, it's about breaking patterns.
Absolutely. So maybe here's a final challenge, a thought to chew on for everyone listening.
Okay, let's hear it.
Pick just one area. Could be work, could be fitness, learning guitar, whatever. Just
Yeah,
one thing.
got it.
And for a week or even a month, consciously try applying just one or two of these weird ideas. Assume your current approach might be wrong. Actively ask someone for negative feedback on your plan. Try to break down one aspect of it using first principles.
Just experiment with one.
Yeah, you don't have to be Elon Musk to do this. It's not about genius IQ. It's about cultivating that mindset, constant questioning, curiosity, wanting to learn and improve continuously. That's really how you level up in anything.
That's a great takeaway. It's a mindset shift available to anyone.
I think so.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Lots to think about there. Stay curious, everyone, and stay bold in your own way.